Hello everyone, welcome to Daily English Pro, your place to improve English every single day. Stay focused, listen carefully, and try to repeat after what you hear. Let's get started.
Hello. Today's podcast is IELTS Speaking Topic on Hobbies.
It is fantastic to be here. You know, I have to be honest with you right out of the gate. When most students see the word hobbies on the exam syllabus or in a prep book, there is this collective groan.
Oh, I can feel that groan in my soul. I really can.
It's almost audible around the world, isn't it?
It is. It's the dread of the mundane. It feels like you are preparing for the most boring first date of your life. Like, so do you like stuff?
That is the perfect analogy. And it feels like forced small talk. You're sitting there, maybe a bit sweaty. You're staring at an examiner who looks like they've heard 1,000 people talk about listening to music that day.
You just know it. You can see it in their eyes.
Exactly. And you think, great, I have to talk about my stamp collection or how I like to jog on Tuesdays. How am I supposed to show off my English skills with that?
Right. It feels like a trap. If I talk about quantum physics, I sound smart. But if I talk about knitting, I sound like a grandmother. And no offense to grandmothers, they are the backbone of society. Of course. But they aren't usually known for high-stakes English exams.
But that attitude, that dismissal of the topic, is actually the biggest mistake a candidate can make. It is a fatal error. Conversely, and this is what we are going to unpack today, this topic is what I like to call a golden opportunity.
A golden opportunity.
It's a Trojan horse.
A Trojan horse. Okay, you have piqued my interest. So you are saying we can sneak something powerful inside this boring beige wrapper?
That's the crux of it, yes. Think about the mission of this deep dive. We are not here to give you a list of hobbies so you can pick one. We aren't here to teach you the rules of tennis.
Right.
Our goal is to take this seemingly simple topic and show you how to weaponize it. We want to turn hobbies into a high-scoring machine that demonstrates range, fluency, and crucially, emotional connection.
And you said examiners actually love this topic.
They do, because here is the secret. Examiners actually love this topic.
I find that hard to believe. I assumed they were secretly falling asleep behind their clipboards while I described my vegetable garden.
Well, they might be bored by the content if it's generic, but they love the potential of the topic. You see, the examiner does not care what your hobby is. Let me repeat that because it is so liberating for people to hear.
Okay.
They do not care. You could collect rare coins, you could skydive out of perfectly good airplanes, or you could collect dust bunnies from under your sofa.
Dust bunnies. Okay, I am going to challenge you on that later. If I can get a Band 8 talking about dust bunnies, I will buy you dinner.
You are on. Because here's the thing. They care about communication, clarity, vocabulary range, and fluency. They care about how you construct the image in their mind.
So the dust bunnies.
If you can describe the dust bunnies, the accumulation of particulate matter, the silent passage of time, the mesmerizing gray fluff, you are winning.
Okay, particulate matter. I see where you are going with this. It's not the thing, it's the lens you view it through.
Spot on. And this brings us to a concept we need to cement right now, the home court advantage.
I am a sucker for a sports analogy. Break it down for me.
In the IELTS speaking test, you are often tossed into the deep end with abstract topics. Part 3 might ask you about the impact of artificial intelligence on the global workforce.
Which is terrifying.
Or the architectural integrity of modern cities versus historical preservation.
I mean, I can barely discuss those things in my native language, let alone a second one. You have to invent opinions on the fly.
Correct. You are scrambling for ideas and vocabulary simultaneously. It is a high cognitive load. But hobbies are personal.
Right. They're mine.
You live them. You love them. You do them on Saturday mornings in your pajamas. You don't have to struggle to remember facts or statistics. The content is already in your hard drive.
That's a massive relief. So the cognitive load just drops.
Drastically. You aren't inventing information, you are just packaging it.
Yeah.
You are taking something you already know intimately and putting a nice ribbon on it.
Okay.
And here's the key insight we want to focus on today. Even a simple, lazy hobby, something passive like watching TV, can score a Band 8 or higher if you describe it with the right language.
I love that. So we are going to turn our couch potato habits into linguistic gold. No more guilt about binge watching.
No guilt, only vocabulary. It is the difference between saying I watch shows and saying I engage in a critical analysis of plot structures and cinematography, often binging entire seasons to track character arcs.
That sounds dignified. I feel smarter just listening to it.
Okay.
Okay, before we get into the specific words, the weapons, as you called them, We need to look at the battlefield.
Good idea.
How does this topic actually fit into the test structure? Because it's not just one question, is it? It pops up everywhere.
No, and this is where students get tripped up. We need to understand the landscape. The speaking test has 3 distinct parts, and Hobbies is a chameleon. It can show up in all of them.
A chameleon.
But your strategy, your tone, and your sentence structure need to shift gears as you move through the parts. You cannot use the same strategy in part 3 that you used in part 1. It just won't work.
Okay, walk us through these gears. Let's start with part 1.
Part 1 is about 4 to 5 minutes. The best way to visualize this is as the coffee shop date.
Okay, low stakes. Casual, just getting to know each other.
Exactly. You are breaking the ice. The examiner's checking your ID, asking your name, and then asking some general questions about your life. The answers should be short, natural, and crisp.
How short?
2 to 4 sentences. You're chatting with a friend. If a friend asks, "Do you like reading?" and you speak for 4 minutes about the history of the printing press, your friend is going to slowly back away.
Right. It's socially weird. You want to be conversational, not deliver a lecture?
That's it. Then we move to part 2. The long turn. This is 3 to 4 minutes total. You get a prompt card, you get 1 minute to prepare, and you have to speak for up to 2 minutes.
And this is the part where the sweat starts. 2 minutes feels like an eternity when you are staring at a stopwatch.
It does, which is why we need a frame shift.
Yeah.
Think of part 2 not as a chat, but as a short presentation or maybe a storytelling session. You are holding the floor. You need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You are the narrator of your own little story.
Okay, so part 1 is a chat, part 2 is a story. What is part 3?
Part 3 is the university seminar.
Ooh, that sounds serious.
It is. It is a 4 to 5 minute two-way discussion. The examiner is going to push you. They're going to ask why and what about and to what extent.
So if part 1 is, do you like reading? Part 3 is what?
Part 3 is, how has the digitization of literature affected the cognitive development of children in modern society?
Wow. Okay. That is a steep, steep jump.
It is. We aren't talking about your hobby anymore. We are talking about the concept of leisure in society. The strategy here is that your tone must shift from personal and casual to abstract and analytical.
So if you stay in coffee shop mode for part 3...
You are capping your score.
Yeah.
You're showing you can't handle abstract thought.
That is such a helpful framework. Coffee shop stole, hex stole, a seminar. Okay, let's zoom in on the coffee shop, part 1. The questions are pretty standard, I assume.
Very standard. You will hear things like, do you have any hobbies? How often do you do it? Or why do you enjoy it? Super predictable.
And I assume saying, yes, I like reading is not going to get me that golden ticket.
It certainly won't. I mean, it's accurate, but it's boring.
Yeah.
Let's look at a specific comparison for reading. This is really illuminating.
Okay.
A band 6 answer, which is a competent user, someone who can get by just fine in an English-speaking country, would be something like, yes, I have some hobbies. I like reading books in my free time. It is fun.
It works. I understand what they mean, but it's beige. It's oatmeal with no sugar.
It's grammatically correct, but limited. It's functional. Now let's step it up. A band 7 approach might be, yes, I'm really into reading. I try to read every night because it's therapeutic.
Okay, therapeutic is a nice word, and really into is a good phrasal verb. It's better.
It's better? Yes. But now, listen to the band 8 plus approach. Listen to the texture of this. I'm a bit of a bookworm, actually. I'm constantly dipping into novels whenever I have a spare moment. It really lets me switch off from the daily grind.
Oh, I hear the difference immediately. It's not just the big words, it's the flow. Bookworm. Dipping into daily grind. It sounds native.
That is the goal. Idiomatic language is the key differentiator. You aren't just reading, you are switching off. You aren't just reading books, you are dipping into them.
Let's pause on daily grind. That is such a specific phrase. Why is that better than saying work?
Because work is a label. Daily grind is an image. It comes from the old mills where they would grind grain with heavy stones over and over. It implies repetition, weariness, the heavy, slow crushing of the day. When you say, I need to escape the daily grind, the examiner feels the weight of your day and the relief that the hobby provides. It is emotive.
It's sensory. I love that. Okay, what about other hobbies? Let's role play a bit. I'll be the student, you be the coach. Let's talk about gardening.
Great example.
Okay, band 6 me says, I like gardening. I grow flowers in my backyard. It is beautiful.
Functional. I understand it. But it's flat. Now upgrade it. Instead, use a phrase like, I have a green thumb.
I have a green thumb. Okay, that's a good idiom.
And instead of grow flowers, talk about cultivating them. or maybe nurturing them.
Okay. I consider myself to have a bit of a green thumb. I spend my weekends cultivating roses in my garden.
Much better. Now, add the emotional payoff. Why do you do it?
It helps me relax.
Too simple. Try something like, it connects me with nature, or even better, it is incredibly grounding to get my hands dirty.
Grounding. I like that. So it's incredibly grounding to get my hands dirty and see the fruits of my labor.
Boom. Band-Aid. Fruits of my labor is a fantastic idiom, especially for gardening. You've just painted a whole picture.
Okay, what about the question, how often do you do it? I feel like I always just say every day or sometimes. It feels so basic.
And that is the trap. Avoid absolutes like every day, unless you can back them up with some complex grammar. But generally, nuance is where the points are.
So what's an alternative?
Instead of sometimes, try. It really depends on how hectic my week is.
Ooh, hectic. That's a good alternative to just busy.
Or I try to squeeze in 30 minutes whenever I can. Or my personal favorite, when I have a free afternoon, I can lose myself for hours on end.
Lose myself for hours on end. That paints such a vivid picture. It implies a deep focus, that flow state, without actually using the technical term flow state.
And that leads naturally to the why question. Moving beyond, it is fun, is critical. In fact, let's just say fun is a banned word in our session today.
Banned. Gone. If you say fun, you have to put $1 in the jar.
Deal. Instead of it's fun, try phrasing like it's sheer escapism or it broadens my horizons.
For reading or movies, you could say something like, it lets me step into a character's shoes.
Yes. Or you could link it to self-improvement. It's done wonders for my vocabulary. These phrases show you understand cause and effect and can express your internal states.
Now, here is a tricky one I see students struggle with. The money question. Is your hobby expensive? I feel like this is a trap to make you talk about numbers, which can be hard.
It is not a math test. It is a vocabulary test. You don't need to give figures. This is where you can use financial idioms.
Okay.
If it's expensive, you could say it might break the bank, or it can set you back quite a bit.
And if it's cheap, what's better than cheap?
It's budget-friendly or easy on the wallet, but the very best answers show nuance. For example, let's go back to Reading. Is reading expensive?
Well, it depends. Libraries are free, but if you buy new hardcovers all the time, it definitely adds up.
Exactly. So your answer should reflect that complexity. Don't give a simple yes or no.
So how would I phrase that?
You could say, well, it can go either way, really.
Yeah.
On one hand, borrowing books from the library makes it very budget-friendly. On the other hand, I have a weakness for beautifully bound hardcovers, which can certainly set you back quite a bit.
I love that structure. On one hand, on the other hand, it buys you thinking time and it shows you can balance two opposing ideas in a single thought.
Indubitably. It shows you're on a robot program with just one answer. You're a complex human being.
Okay, let's talk about the past. They often ask, did you have different hobbies as a child?
This is a great question. It is a test of your ability to use past tense versus present tense and to tell a mini story about your own evolution.
Right.
And a really nice narrative arc to use here is the transition from the hyperactive outdoor kid to the quiet bookworm.
I relate to that deeply. I used to climb trees and build forts. I was practically feral. Now my back hurts if I sit in a chair that isn't ergonomic.
Right, so you use that contrast.
Yeah.
As a child, I was always outdoors, building makeshift forts and generally running wild. But as I matured, my interest took an unexpected turn, and now I tend to prefer more solitary pursuits.
Interests can take such unexpected turns as you mature. That sounds so sophisticated. It sounds like something a philosopher would say while smoking a pipe.
It does. It shows reflection, not just memory.
What about the indoor versus outdoor debate?
This is a great place to introduce the homebody persona. It's very relatable.
I'm a bit of a homebody.
Yes, embrace the cozy blanket vibes. But to get those high marks, you might want to balance it. You don't want to sound lazy. You want to sound intentional.
What do you mean?
So you could say, I'm a real homebody at heart, but I make a conscious effort to take strolls through the neighborhood just to avoid feeling stagnant.
Stagnant, like a pond with no flow. Good word. Okay, and finally, the social aspect. Do you do this alone or with friends?
The mixed bag answer is your friend here.
The mixed bag.
Yes. The phrase, it's a mixed bag, is great. For example, for me, reading is very much a solo affair. Lovely phrase, solo affair. But joining a book club recently has added a whole new dimension to it.
That shows both sides.
Or for cooking. It could be an intimate act of care when I'm cooking for my family, but honestly, sometimes just chopping vegetables alone is my form of meditation.
Intimate act of care. That is beautiful. It really elevates the concept of making dinner from a chore to a gesture of love.
And that's the whole point of part one. Elevate the mundane. Be natural. Be specific. Use idioms, and don't be afraid to be a little bit human.
Okay, let's step up the difficulty. We are leaving a coffee shop. We are walking onto the stage. Part two, the presentation.
The long turn.
You said this is where students panic because they have to speak for 2 minutes without stopping.
Panic is the enemy of fluency. The brain just freezes. The trick is to realize that 2 minutes is actually just enough time to tell a good story. You just need a structure.
Let's do a workshop here. I want to try this. The prompt is, describe a hobby you enjoy. I'm going to choose cooking. And I'll try to give a Band 6 answer, and I want you to stop me when I'm being boring, and we will fix it together.
I am ready. Go.
Okay. I like cooking. I cook every day for my family. It saves money because restaurants are expensive. Yesterday I made pasta. It was tomato sauce. My family liked it. I want to learn to make sushi next.
Stop. Stop right there.
Not bad.
It wasn't bad in the sense that I understood you, but I was bored to tears. It was a list. I cook. It saves money. I made pasta. It's robotic. We need a narrative arc.
Okay, how do I find an arc in pasta? Where's the story?
We use the transformation structure. Start with why you started. Did you always love cooking? Were you a natural?
No, absolutely not. When I first moved out, I was terrible. I lived on cereal. I burned toast.
Perfect. That's your opening. Cooking has become a cornerstone of my daily life now, but it certainly wasn't always that way. When I first moved out of my parents' house, I was really thrown into the deep end.
Throw it into the deep end. I like that. I had to fend for myself for the first time?
Yes, fend for myself. Now you have a struggle. You were surviving on burnt toast. So how did you get better? What was the turning point?
I guess I just started watching videos online and experimenting.
Okay, but give me the senses. This is the sensory audit technique. Before you speak, think. Smell, sound, sight. What does cooking feel like?
Well, the smell of garlic and onions frying. That sizzle sound it makes in the pan.
Use that. Gradually, I fell in love with the process. The sizzle of garlic in a hot pan, the vibrant colors of fresh vegetables, the aroma of herbs filling the kitchen.
That is so much better than I made pasta.
It puts the examiner in the kitchen with you. They can almost smell it. And don't forget to add a touch of humor. Did you have any disasters along the way?
Oh, plenty. I once made a cake that was basically a chocolate-flavored rock.
Mention that. My early attempts were spectacularly unsuccessful. I once baked a cake that could have been used as a doorstop.
A doorstop. That's good.
Self-deprecation shows confidence. It shows you are comfortable enough with the language to make a joke. And finally, end with the why again. Not just, it saves money, but what's the duper reason?
I guess. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. To make something delicious from nothing.
There you go. So the structure is the struggle, I couldn't cook, the sensory experience, the sizzle and smell, the humor, the doorstop cake, and the deep reason, accomplishment.
That's a Band 8+ answer. It's a full story, not just a list of facts.
Precisely. Let's look at another case study. Future hobbies. The prompt might be, describe a hobby you want to start. The source mentioned pottery.
Oh, I've seen those videos online. It looks so relaxing.
It's a great example because it allows for very tactile vocabulary. You can talk about the mesmerizing videos you've seen online of people wheel throwing.
Yeah, where the clay just spins and it looks so smooth and effortless.
Exactly. You can call it a tactile experience. You can say, you imagine it would be very grounding. You can say it's on your bucket list.
And the motivation here is really interesting. It's moving away from consumption and towards creation.
That is a very sophisticated point to make. I feel I spend so much of my free time consuming content, watching TV, scrolling on my phone. I have this urge to make something tangible. I want to get my hands dirty and create a physical object that exists in the real world.
That connects the hobby to a deeper psychological need. That is smart, very smart.
What about something more common? Maybe something people are shy about admitting, like gaming.
Oh, this is dangerous territory. Gaming gets a bad rap, doesn't it?
It does. The stereotype is of teenage boys hunched over a console in a dark room.
Right, eating chips, shouting at the screen. That's the image.
So if you talk about gaming, your job is to dispel that stereotype. Explain why it is so popular. You could argue that it fits seamlessly into modern lifestyles. It demonstrates digital fluency.
And you can talk about the future, right? You could mention VR, augmented reality, the rise of esports.
Absolutely. If you could discuss the economic impact of esports, how it is becoming a billion-dollar industry with professional athletes, while talking about your hobby, you are definitely showing off a huge range of vocabulary and ideas. You are elevating the topic.
I want to touch on one more case study, the learning a skill example, swimming. This one really resonated with me because it was about learning as an adult, which is so much harder.
This is a powerful narrative because it involves vulnerability. The story isn't, I learned to swim. The story is overcoming a deep-seated fear.
The outline used the word mortified.
Yes, being mortified to be splashing around in the shallow end with a flotation board while 6-year-olds swim circles around you.
That is such a relatable image. The humiliation, we've all been there with something.
But that humiliation makes the victory so much sweeter. The triumph of finally completing one lap from one end of the pool to the other and feeling like you just won an Olympic medal.
And what's the lesson at the end of that story?
The lesson is the big takeaway. And I realized, if I could conquer the water, I can conquer anything. That structure, fear, struggle, triumph lesson is the perfect template for any part 2 story about a new skill.
Fear, struggle, triumph, lesson. Write that down, listeners. It works for learning to drive, for public speaking, for learning a language, anything where you started from zero and felt that fear.
It turns a boring anecdote into a hero's journey. Your own personal hero's journey.
Okay, we've crushed part 2, we have told our story, we are feeling good, but now the mood changes. The examiner puts the prompt card away, they lean forward, we enter the seminar room, part 3, the abstract discussion.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where the examiner stops asking about you and starts asking about us, society, humanity. The tone has to become more objective, more analytical.
So no more I feel like or in my experience.
You can still use personal examples, but only as a quick illustration to support a broader point. The questions will be things like, why are hobbies important for society? Or, is technology killing leisure time?
Let's try to tackle one of those. Let's take the technology question. How has technology changed how we spend our free time?
Okay, a great part 3 answer will always look at both sides of the coin. It's never black and white.
So the negative side first.
On one hand, you have the argument that it has led to more passive consumption. The endless scroll on social media, binge watching series, you could call it a time thief.
A time thief. I like that. It's a great metaphor.
But then you have to pivot. You say, having said that, or on the flip side, and you present the positive argument.
Which would be?
Technology has democratized access to skills on an unprecedented scale. 50 years ago, if you wanted to learn guitar, you needed a teacher. Now,
YouTube. There are millions of tutorials.
Exactly. You can learn to code, to paint, to repair a car.
Yeah.
Anything. So while it can be a time thief, it is also an unparalleled educational tool.
What about the hustle culture argument? The idea that we have less time for hobbies now?
This is a classic debate topic. You can argue that we are obsessed with productivity, that we feel this immense pressure to monetize everything.
The side hustle. If I'm knitting, I should be selling the scarves on Etsy. If I'm gaming, I should be streaming on Twitch for money.
Exactly. The monetization of leisure. It's a real trap. And you can express that by saying something like, in today's side hustle culture, there's immense pressure to turn every passion into a profit center. The simple joy of a hobby for its own sake is being lost.
And you could add that the fairy tale of making a living from your passion often turns into a chore.
The fairy tale becomes a chore. That is a band 9 sentence. It connects a societal trend with a psychological outcome.
Okay, what about hobbies for children? Should children have hobbies? It seems like a simple yes or no question.
It does. But remember, in part 3, we want nuance. We want to look for the dark side of every argument.
The dark side of kids playing soccer, what could that be?
The dark side is the parents. The tiger mom or tiger dad syndrome.
Ah, right. Parent-imposed ambitions. The pressure.
Exactly. So your answer could be, while hobbies are absolutely crucial for skill building and children chess for strategy, sports for teamwork, there's a significant caveat. If a hobby becomes an obligation driven by parental pressure, it loses its magic. It simply becomes another form of work.
That is a very sophisticated distinction. It's not just hobbies are good. It's hobbies are good, provided that they are chosen autonomously.
Provided that. On the condition that. These are the grammar structures that get you high scores in part 3.
Let's touch on one last Part 3 question, the waste of time question. The examiner might ask, are some hobbies a complete waste of time?
They are baiting you with that question. They want you to be judgmental.
I mean, my first thought goes to, I don't know, collecting bottle caps or something.
You must defend the trivial. You can say, well, it really depends on how you define waste. From a purely pragmatic, productivity-focused standpoint, perhaps stamp collecting produces nothing of value. But from a mental health standpoint, if it provides deep satisfaction or breathing space in a hectic world, then it is incredibly valuable.
So you reframe the metric of value. The value isn't money or a product. The value is well-being.
Precisely. You distinguish between active hobbies, even if they seem trivial, and truly mindless consumption, like passive scrolling, without any engagement.
Okay, we have covered the content, the ideas for all 3 parts. But ideas are nothing without the right ammunition. Let's build the vocabulary and grammar arsenal.
Let's break this down into clusters. First up, the vocabulary for starting a hobby. Don't just say, I started. That is band 5.
So what are my options?
You can say, I took up photography, or I dabbled in painting, or I got into hiking. Or, if you haven't started yet but you're thinking about it, I'm flirting with the idea of learning salsa.
Flirting with the idea. I like that. It implies curiosity, but no commitment yet. I'm flirting with the idea of learning the ukulele.
Then the vocabulary for loving it. Instead of I love it, you could say I'm hooked on it, or I can't get enough of it. You can call it a creative outlet, or say that the activity is cathartic.
Cathartic is a great word for artistic or physical hobbies. It means releasing strong emotions, right? So boxing is cathartic. Painting can be cathartic.
Exactly. Now, what about stopping a hobby?
I quit.
A bit harsh. A bit final. Try, I put it on the back burner.
That's a classic idiom. It means it's still there, simmering, but it's not a priority right now.
Or you could say, I grew out of it, which is common for childhood hobbies. Or a more formal option is, my interest waned.
Waned. W-A-N-E-D. That's a nice fancy word.
Now, grammar. We need to talk about the interested trap. This is the classic error that drives examiners crazy.
This is the one where people say, I am boring.
Laughs. Yes. And if you say, I am boring, you are telling the examiner that you, as a person, are a dull individual. The rule is simple. It is for how you feel. I am bored. Ginging is for the thing that causes the feeling. The movie is boring.
So I'm interested in the book. And the book is interesting.
Got it in one. But let's go deeper. Let's talk about what I call advanced tense manipulation.
That sounds like a superpower. What is it?
It is a superpower in the exam. In part 1 and part 2, you want to show that you can mix your tenses naturally within a single answer. Don't just stay in the present simple.
Give me an example.
Let's take the guitar. A basic band 6 answer. I play the guitar. I like it. It's all in the present simple.
Okay. Now manipulate time for me.
A band 8 plus answer would sound like this. Well, I used to play the piano when I was a child, past simple with used to, but I have been playing the guitar for about 5 years now. Present perfect, continuous. It's been a real challenge. But if I had more free time, second conditional, I would love to start a band.
Wow. Okay. So that was past, present perfect, continuous, and a conditional sentence, all in about 2 sentences.
Well, that is how you show range.
Yeah.
You aren't just stating a fact. You are navigating time and possibility.
And what about prepositions? These are the little killers, the tiny words that can trip you up.
They are. The big 3 for hobbies are, you are good at cooking, not good in. You are keen on hiking, not keen in. And you are interested in reading, not interested for.
Good AT, keen on N, interested in. Chant that in the shower, folks. It'll stick.
So let's talk band scores. How do we really spot the difference between a 6, a 7, and an 8 in the moment?
We've touched on this, but let's crystallize it. What's the dividing line?
The band 6 is clear but simple. They use simple linking words like and, but also, and however. They get the job done. The message is communicated.
It's functional.
Exactly. A band 7 starts using more sophisticated phrasal verbs, pick up, get into, and discourse markers like having said that, or on the whole. And importantly, they self-correct.
So if they make a mistake, they fix it out loud.
Yes. And they do it smoothly. Or rather, it shows they're actively monitoring their own speech, which is a high-level skill.
And band 8 and 9.
Band 8 plus is where the magic happens. The language becomes idiomatic. It's natural, the drop of a hat, in the same boat. There's nuance, there's humor, and there are complex structures like cleft sentences.
Cleft sentences? I feel like I should know this, but it sounds like anatomy class.
Laughs. It's about slicing the sentence to change the focus. Instead of saying, I love the strategy of chess, you say, what I love most about chess is the strategy.
Ah, okay. What I find most difficult it's the creativity that I enjoy. You're highlighting one specific element.
Exactly. It adds emphasis and grammatical complexity. It sounds very natural.
And let's briefly touch on the big mistakes to avoid. We mentioned the robotic voice.
The Wikipedia voice, you hear it sometimes. Reading is the cognitive process of decoding symbols to derive meaning from them.
Yikes. Yeah, don't do that.
Speak like a human being. And please, avoid the one-word answer in part 1.
Yeah.
Do you like sports?
Yeah. Yes. Followed by an awkward silence.
It forces the examiner to drag the answer out of you, which is not what you want. And finally, never just list hobbies without explaining the emotional connection. Don't give a shopping list. Give us the feelings.
So how do we practice all of this? We can't just hope for the best on test day. This all needs to be trained.
The best method is a self-study strategy. It involves 3 simple steps: record, review, repeat.
Ugh, nobody likes listening to their own voice. It makes me cringe every time.
It is painful. It is awful. I hate it too. But it is the single fastest way to improve your speaking. You need to simulate the timing. For part 1 questions, give yourself 30-45 seconds. For part 2, 1 minute prep, 2 minutes speak. Part 3, 45-90 seconds.
And when we listen back, what are we listening for? Not just the big grammar mistakes, right?
No, listen for the small things, the pauses. Did you say 5 times in 30 seconds? Did you use the same word like fun over and over? Did you actually answer all parts of the question?
The outline mentions the challenge. Answer the same question once a week for a month.
Yes. You will be amazed at the improvement. The first recording will sound hesitant and clunky. By the 4th recording, you will sound much more fluent and natural. It is muscle memory. Your mouth needs to get used to forming these sounds and phrases.
This has been such a deep dive. I feel like we have dissected this topic from every possible angle.
We have tried to, yes.
Okay, before we go, I want to try one final boss challenge. I am going to channel my inner couch potato. I'm going to talk about watching TV, but I am going to try to make it sound like a Band 9 answer using all the tips we've discussed. You can be the judge.
I am listening. The floor is yours.
While some might consider television a rather passive pastime, I actually find it to be a fascinating window into the human condition. I'm particularly keen on psychological thrillers. There is something incredibly cathartic about unraveling a complex mystery from the safety of my own living room. It allows me to completely switch off from the daily grind while simultaneously engaging my critical thinking skills. Plus, frankly, it's very budget-friendly, providing you don't subscribe to every streaming service known to man.
Bravo. Just bravo.
Did I get it? Did I pass?
You nailed it. Window into the human condition. Keen on, cathartic, switch off from the daily grind, budget-friendly, and you ended with a touch of humor. That is a Band 9 couch potato right there.
Yes, I knew my thousands of hours on Netflix were just research.
Yes. Just make sure you can describe them that well on test day.
To summarize, hobbies are the perfect vehicle to show off your personality and English skills because they are inherently flexible and emotional. You have the home court advantage. Use it.
And here's a provocative thought to leave you with. When you are choosing which hobby to talk about, ask yourself this: does your hobby reflect who you are now or who you want to be? Sometimes talking about the hobby we want to pursue, like that pottery class we haven't booked yet, says more about our values and aspirations than the things we actually do every day.
That's deep. And I'll add one more. Are you keeping a hobby just for yourself in a world that demands monetization? Maybe the most rebellious thing you can do today is have a hobby that makes 0 money and get 0 likes on social media. Just pure, unadulterated joy.
Indeed. Keep some of it pure.
Thank you so much for breaking all this down. This was incredibly helpful.
It was my pleasure.
Listeners, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Good luck with your test and happy hobbying.